Our guest for today is someone who is an expert at creating winning go-to strategies. Sales, accounting, and consulting don't make up to your typical CMO background, but our guest today is not your typical CMO. We're also very fortunate to have her join us as the first woman speaker in The Hype is Real. We have Latané Conant, the CMO of 6sense. Hey, Latané, welcome to The Hype is Real.
Hi, Lax. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Wonderful. So we'll get started with your story, which is very interesting how you have come from sales to marketing, and where the whole world is talking about how sales and marketing can work together, but you have actually come from sales to marketing. So let's get started there. Let's begin with your story. You're in sales for close to a decade, and then you made the switch to marketing. You grew rapidly to become the CMO of Apiro, and then now the CMO of 6sense. How and why did you make that transition?
It was very accidental, and now looking back on it, lucky. But I guess you know what they say about luck. It's hard work and opportunity or something like that. There's some saying about that. But I was, selling at Apiro, and I had a sales team, and I had just gotten promoted to be an AVP, which I thought was like the coolest thing ever. I mean, I really thought I had made it. Thought I was like a made woman. And then lo and behold, we did a major organizational shift, and we had been having some trouble in marketing. And so our CEO came to me and said, I want you to come over and help me with marketing. And I said, well, I don't know. I'm AVP of the West. And he goes, well, no, you're not anymore. You got to pick a lane. What do you want to do? And I had shown initiative as a sales leader in creating a field marketing team. So we didn't have a field marketing team, and I felt passionately about having that. So I had shown initiative and done that. I had shown initiative around creating a value engineering model that became a really important sales play for us. I had shown initiative around creating an inside sales team because we didn't have one. And so I kind of just made it up as I went along. And as issues arise or opportunities arise, I always said, why don't I go do it? I don't mind doing it. So I was sort of known as that person, that busybody, I suppose. And so he kind of convinced me, and I said, it was kind of interesting though. I said, well, will I be the CMO? And he said, no, never.
Okay.
He said, you have no experience and you do not have the pedigree to ever be my CMO.
Wow.
And I remember just crying, it's like, you don't want to ever cry in front of your CEO, but I did. I did that. I remember just bawling, being like, really, why should I do this? And he's like, because I'm asking you to. And so I did it, and I proved him wrong. Never say never, I guess. And lo and behold, I ended up becoming the CMO at Apiro. But it was, the path is never straightforward, I suppose.
Wow, what a story. And very interesting. And if you had to do this again, would you go down the same path, like in sales first and then marketing, or would you do it differently?
I would. You can't go back with regrets. The only job I would say that maybe I have regrets over is I worked in corporate strategy at Walgreens, and it was so boring. I could do my job in 2 hours, and then I was just sitting there. It was terrible. But they relocated me to Chicago, and I met my husband. So, and I would have never moved to Chicago had it not been for that job. So, amazing husband, 2 kids, great family. So I suffered through being bored out of my mind and having to wear pantyhose every day.
I had short hair for 7 years, and the length of this beard would never have been accepted when I was at FedEx, which sounds exciting compared to what you went through, but the pain, I remember needing some excitement, and that's why I moved to tech as well. We all have our stories.
I hate being bored. I hate being bored. So that's kind of my thing, is like, don't restrain me. Give me lots of rope and I will go and run and do what needs to get done.
I could definitely empathize with that. Like, I kept thinking, like, the structured way of me thinking was like, I feel like I'm not exercising my ambition here. That's what I like. And I just want to be put in a place where I feel like I'm exercising my ambition. And simply put, I'm like, there's a ceiling. And I don't want to go down that path, but like, proverbially or literally, and there's slots along the way, and each slot's not that interesting. But anyway, I digress. So taking the CMO, you start as a chief marketing officer. Now you're a chief market officer. I want you to unpack what that transition was like, why you call yourself a chief marketing officer, change the title and stuff like that, and how that helps with alignment. Like, coming up as a young founder, alignment is 99% of everything. So I'm curious to hear from your point of view.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that we've believed in a big way since our founding at 6sense is empowering women, going back to our original founder. And so we do a lot of things around empowering women. And one of the things that we do is a retreat for CMOs to share and learn. And it's all women and it's all amazing CMOs. And I was relatively new to 6sense. Actually, my second week at 6sense was running this conference. So it's my second week at 6sense. I'm running this conference with all these big time. I mean, these are big time CMOs. It's Maria Pergolino. It's all the name brand, big time CMOs, and then little old me. And one of the sessions was about, are you a chief marketing officer or a chief market officer, and what the difference was. And marketing often is about doing all the things. Like, you don't call it a chief financing officer. You call it a chief finance officer because he owns the domain of finance. And so this session said, women, CMOs, you need to own the domain of the market. And if you don't get the market right, all of your ing doesn't matter because it's not even going to the right audience or the right place. And fundamentally, that is the job. And so you need to start showing up that way, and you need to start leading that way. And I thought, oh my God, I want to be a chief market officer so bad. And I was taking all these notes, and we had Jennifer Johnson talk about category design and all these things. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I a chief market officer? And the reality was I wasn't. I mean, A, I just started, and B, I was running around doing all the typical things. But was I really the voice at the table that knew the market? Was I helping us shape where we go in the market? Was I shaping the narrative in the market we want to own? I couldn't really say that. And so I just made up my mind that I was going to be a chief market officer, but I wasn't going to change my title until I felt like I was really living up to that role. And so it took me about 2.5 years to feel like I was living up to the role. And it was, around how we repositioned our platform. It was coming out of a lot of work I had done with the analysts to kind of shape their point of view and how they perceived 6sense. It was, publishing a book. It was, all of these things. It was, doing the TAM analysis to help us know, which markets we should go into. And then it was actually participating a lot in our funding process and how we shape the message to investors and the category that we're in and how we're shaping that. And then coming out of that funding round, our Series C, I was like, I think I can do it now. I think I've lived up to it. And so that's when I changed my title to Chief Market Officer. And I try to live up to the standards of that title every day.
Wow, nice. And the first big I don't say it's whether initiative or it was already planned, the conference with all the big CMOs, that was the first thing that you just said that you did. And so when you joined 6sense, like back in 2018, as CMO, what was the big thing that you wanted to do? And probably these were the possible early days of ABM, right? How hard was it to help customers pick that ABM mindset?
Well, the interesting thing was I kind of thought ABM was bullshit, and I joined an ABM company. So I had some reconciling to do with our definition of ABM. Because just because you're in a category doesn't mean that's everything that you do and necessarily how you define success for your clients. And so for me, it was, I need to be customer zero of 6sense. And I need to write the playbook, not on the clicks and the buttons and how you set things up, but the strategy for how you create predictable revenue using data and using insights. A majority of marketing and selling, sans something like 6sense, is guesswork. And it's not blind guess, like it's educated. But typically, if you think about running a sales play or running a marketing play, it's, I did this campaign at Aperio and it worked awesome, so now I'm going to do it here. Well, why 3 years later, different audience? But that's what we all do. We ran this last year and it worked well, or I did this at a past company, or, we're all limited by our own experiences and the data that is right in front of us. And that's not the reality that we live in. We live in a reality that exposes tons of data about our market. I call them revenue moments. And if all of a sudden I'm sitting on top of all of these revenue moments that can inform a much different strategy and reality for me and the sales team, I better do it. And if I don't do it, no one will. And so that was kind of the premise of no forms, no spam, no cold calls was, hey, if we use these insights, we can fundamentally up-level the experience for our prospects who are future customers. And I bet we'll win. And I bet we'll win more often. And I bet people will pay more to use us. And so we just played that out. And we went all in on being a victim of our own success. And, here we are, it's almost 4 years later, we've doubled every single year. We have 130% NRR. We have an industry leading CAC or magic number. And I attribute that to data doesn't lie, insights don't lie, and really being all in on this approach of using data, but also putting the customer or the prospect first in every interaction, every tactic, everything we do.
Wow, love the customer zero approach.
I love it. And as others are coming into your space, this is just a comment, like you all are fending them off, like, because you have a superior offering. and can you unpack like that? I'm like purely curiosity, like you have some big others in ABM that are doing pretty well. How do you remain at the top?
So we use a strategic planning framework called V2 Mom. Salesforce used it. And every single year, first of all, it's not by accident. We're executors and we're operators, all the leadership team. And so we sit and we do something called risk storming. We write the press release that we want to be able to put out in a year together. And I think of my leadership team, the people, my peers, those are my first team. It's not the people that report to me. My first team and the most important team is my peers. And so we go through this exercise and we say, you know, what do we need to do to continue to change our business, not run our business? And we're very humble and hungry about where we are always. And so coming out of that exercise, we typically have anywhere from 5 to 7 top priorities to change the business. And one of them is always around a competitive moat, and a competitive moat in technology mode. And that's critical for us. And so, you know, and our biggest differentiator is our data and the quality of our AI. It's a lot of work to change. So to change for something that's 30% good versus something that's 90% good, you want to go with the thing that's 90% accurate. And so that's a big part of our strategy. We also quickly, I think early on, saw the importance of bringing sales and marketing together. So we have the leading like sales engagement side, or, you know, sales intelligence aspect of our platform. And our customers are really, really, really thriving and happy. We actually, so the number one priority the last few years has to do with delivering value. Because we're not doing this for our health. This isn't like a cool pair of sneakers where, you know, you just feel cool wearing them. This is so that people get promoted and can feed their families. Like this, you know, that's what we're doing. And so we want to make sure that there's clear value from this strategy and the technology. And so every quarter we do something where we survey, we look at data across all of our customers to see what's the value. And over and over and over again, it's consistently 2 times higher ASPs, anywhere from 10 to 40% better conversion rates, same sort of ranges for cycle times. And that's like board level stuff. That's stuff that people on your board will flip out about doing. So, you know, that helps too, is that it's a self, you know, it's a virtuous cycle in that we're making customers successful. And then, you know, they want to obviously do more with us as well as tell people about it.
I friggin' love that. You know, do right by your family and do right by your board with your tool, right? Like it's incredible. Now, you know, looking at your journey to where you're at, I'm sure you've had some, and specifically while being CMO, I'm sure you've had some like ebbs and flows. I'm curious as to like maybe a couple successes that you're real proud of, a couple, you know, learnings, we'll call it, that, you know, you can admit and you've learned a bit from.
This is more of a funny one, but I can laugh about it now. So, you know, when I started at 6sense, we had one marketer and me. And so, you know, then we had 2 or 3, but small teams, everyone's doing everything. You know, I'm writing a blog with one hand and, you know, trying to set up stuff in Marketo with the other, and, you know, on a conference call or podcast on the third. So, all the things. And we had a program for customers because our tagline is know everything, do anything, because that's the whole AI thing. Like if I can put the power of AI behind every sales and marketer and they know everything they need to know about their customers and prospects, I know they can do anything and be very successful. And so that's kind of our brand promise, right? So we wanted to roll out something for customers, and we said, well, what does a customer advocate look like? And we said, well, they're obviously knowing and doing, but they're knowing and doing, and then they're teaching. So what's something that like, not, and so we came up with this whole concept of a 6sense, and a 6sense knows everything, does everything, and then teaches others. And so we're like, all right, so we created all this swag around it. And one of the things we do is if you were a 6sense, you got a custom bobblehead Anyway, it was a really cool creative program. And so we had 37 new 6senses that we wanted to send a big swag box to. And so rather than send the email to the 37 people to claim their swag, we sent it to the entire database. And oh my word, people, I'm telling you, if you're low on leads one month, just tell everyone you'll give them swag, because we've never had better response. People came out of the woodwork. And what was weird was they were so like pissed that they got the email. Like, why am I, I'm on the unsubscribe list, blah, blah, blah. But where's my swag? And I'm like, well, which one is it? Do you want to unsubscribe or do you want the swag? Anyway, it was just like one of those like moments where you're like, oh my God, I'm such a screw up. I can't even send an email out.
claim your swag. By doing so, you resubscribe.
Yeah. Anyway, so that we can laugh at it now, but at the time it felt like, a huge deal.
Yeah.
Now, oh my God, that
we all had those moments in the initial days, sending out to the entire list.
Yeah. We all, I honestly think we should write like a funny ebook on it, because I bet we could get so many people that could give a horror story. You know what I mean? Anyway.
I found you have to deal with it with humor as much as possible. So somebody fished as me to our whole database saying like, call them up. And like, it was not my fault at all. But like after the 15th person came to me one-to-one, I'm like, we need to do something about this, because there's another 1,500 maybe that aren't saying anything. Like, this is not good.
Right.
So my co-founder does like a Tinder swindler reference. If you've seen the popular Netflix show, and it's like Peter Hurt, send money. It's like so obvious that it's a scam. It's like, no, just kidding. God. Don't do this. And everyone's like, yay, like this is awesome. You have to, right? Like, and HBO did it once where they're like, yeah, our apologies for this empty, like, hello. It was the intern. No, but really it is. But we're treating him with kindness and, helping him out. So next time he doesn't make that mistake.
Own it.
What about a success? What about a success as well? Like something that like maybe was a risk or something that you planned that went well and that like you really can hang your hat on.
I mean, great marketing is about taking lots of risks. I love taking risks. We decide. I was a BDR for a day and realized just how hard it was. You know how hard it is, and this and that. But it struck me how hard it was and how badly I sucked at it. And so 3 years ago, we declared that we were going to have a BDR appreciation week every week. And it was one of those things that could have been like crickets, like, okay, that's kind of weird, whatever. Or could have really turned into a thing. And, 3 years later, it's like it was just a couple weeks ago. People go crazy for it. And we had an award ceremony this year, and tons of our customers had like watch parties all over the world to vote for their BDRs. And it's just so like fun and rewarding. So that's been like fun to watch grow and build. The other thing is, the CMO community that was a COVID baby. I mean, some people got a puppy. I got a community because we were on a breakfast roadshow, CMO roadshow tour, and couldn't do that anymore. But I wasn't going to be down and out. I'm like, we're moving, and we went city to city virtually, but then we kind of realized that we could do it every week and no one wanted to stop getting together. And so we came up with a kind of a winning format for CMOs. Like the most relevant topic voted on by them. We just come together informally and jam. And it's 1,700 CMOs now. And we just raised $11,000 for the Ukraine and counting. So it's just an awesome community that like nurtures the whole person. And I don't know, it's been very, very rewarding getting to know so many fabulous CMOs. Learning. I love learning. So every week I get to learn from the best and the brightest.
No, I love that. Lex, I don't want to hijack it too much here because I know you.
No, go on. It's very interesting.
But you mentioned Ukraine, and this, and outside of this being a big cause, like close to many folks' hearts, in the whole war there, unpacking like how social impact impacts, the marketing and the brand of companies in public. We talk about Nike with the Colin Kaepernick, Black Lives Matters, how they took certain stands. In tech, it's been a little lacking to be like that much. But now, like throughout COVID, it seems like people have like really stepped up, above and beyond. How has that responsibility impacted how you market? And because you are the chief market officer now, this is probably a big deal for you.
Yeah. And I guess I feel, and this is more of a personal, like our stance is to always think about what can we do, not what can we say. And so we don't always change our LinkedIn colors to whatever it is, or post about it, or, but that doesn't mean we're not figuring out what we can do. And so we ask two questions: what can we do? And how can we help our employees in these type of situations? And we act. Now, I think whether or not you say something depends on a lot of things. I think that if you're a CEO who has a personal experience with that issue, coming forward with a heartfelt story is great. But I think if your CEO doesn't, if your CEO has never been an African-American male, him trying to identify that he was one feels a little bit not right. You know what I mean? And so, for me, it's just about how do we be authentic to who we are? How do we prioritize action? And how do we prioritize our employees? And sometimes we make statements and sometimes we don't. Just sometimes depends. And I don't think there's a right answer. I think we're all learning this as we go.
Yeah, very true.
What?
Yeah.
I said certainly important in weighs on me all the time, because as a company, you are a brand. Whether there's a technology behind the brand or a pair of sneakers, and today more than ever, people buy from technologies that could help them, but also brands that they trust, and that's part of the community. Like Uprising, there's a reason why everything goes hand in hand, right? Mm-hmm. And part of that trust is being able to be there for the people in your space as humans, first and foremost, and hit them all around, not just 9 to 5. Because guess what? They might not be using your product 9 to 5 because they're in a bomb shelter now. Or I mean I don't mean to go so in depth, but like you know what I mean. So like it's important to be responsible, and your brand is going to benefit because people are going to trust you as like humans.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well said, Jared.
We did. We had our customer conference in Austin, and again, we're big believers in supporting women. So I opened with a $30,000 check to Anita B, which helps get underprivileged women started in tech. So I didn't write a blog about it. I didn't like post it a million times on social. And maybe that's wrong, but we did it.
Actions
and
overall.
Yeah. And every week our employees vote on the charity they want to donate to. And we donate every week to a charity.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, all good things come out automatically. You don't have to buzz or brag about them. But that's a wonderful thing, Latane. You're kind of raising a fund on the community of all these CMOs, and that's a great thing.
Yeah, so there's this quote by Margaret Thatcher where she says, being a lady is like being in charge is like being a lady. If you have to tell people you are, then you aren't. And that's, I guess, how I feel about this.
Wow, wonderful. And changing gears a little bit back to the stories. And so you had your fair amount of success and learnings and all that stuff. And you're such a successful leader now and have created a name for yourself. Where do you attribute most of this success to, and what would you advise the upcoming leaders in the marketing space?
I think that just always you should never be too busy to learn.
Mm.
Especially if you're in a high growth tech environment. The most risky thing you can do is stop learning. And so, we talked about the jobs that we were miserable at, right? So like find a place, find a boss, find a product, find a community that allows you to every day learn and try something new and grow. And if you do that, like you'll be unstoppable. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing for me is I love to learn and try new things.
Wow, love that word. Get never busy to learn.
Excuse me.
I'm I just read your Forbes article on PLG, and we spoke before we hopped on this call about it.
Yeah.
So the next question, it's not really a dag or anything, but like the line that stood out, and it's the line that you used, hype, because the title of this is The Hype is Real. It just coincidentally, but you said you think beneath. I swear to God, I don't control F every single article and look for a commonality with certain words, but I think beneath the hype, we find the same thing. So this is the more I learn about PLG in reference to, the more I think that beneath the hype, we find the same thing. It's just good marketing. Do you want to unpack, PLG and how marketing can take it forward?
Yeah. So first of all, I am not a PLG purist. I am definitely a PLG hijacker, in that I think just like anything, you take the purest form and then you apply what works the best for you and your company. And the things that speak to me about PLG are, first of all, experience. So how do I bring an amazing product experience as forward as I can, right? And the book I wrote about no forms. Well, why would I want to put aspects of my product that create value early and are going to get people excited? Why wouldn't I want to expose that? Why wouldn't I want to bring that forward? And there's lots of creative ways to do that. And so I think if you're not thinking about that as a marketer, probably something to think about. I know I am. We're launching, I call them a product snack. Who doesn't like a snack? I freaking love snacks. Everybody likes snacks. And so one of our objectives is a certain number of snacks, every quarter to get people excited about using 6sense and what we can do. So why would that be a bad idea? That sounds like a great idea. Whether you call it PLG or whatever, like let's keep people pumped about what we do and get their hands on it, so they can experience it. The other thing is it really speaks to users and driving adoption, right? And marketing's role in the life cycle of the customer, because PLG, you really don't get your money until they're using and adopting a lot, right? And so marketing takes on this new role in PLG, which we probably should have had all along, of saying, great that we landed you. How do we get you to continue adopting? How do we get you to tell your friends that our app is awesome and they want to use it? How do we get you enough value that now you want to pay and you want to pay more and you want to upgrade? And so you can think, oh, that's PLG, or you can think, gosh, and we covered this morning on Coffee Talk, a bow tie funnel. You can think, yeah, I need to be thinking about this back half and all of the amazing things I can do to enable that, enable better retention, enable NRR. I mean, NRR is hotter than PLG. That's the result of PLG, right? And that's what investors want. Investors don't want PLG. They want good NRR. And we can have a big role in that. So, those are some of the things that I think are really cool about it. And we're adopting here into our motion.
Cool. Wonderful. And a very interesting name.
One more thing about PLG that I also like. I think that marketing has always sort of thought, oh, I need to be best friends with sales. And it's about marketing and sales alignment, which it is. But I started by saying, like, the executive team is my first team. You can't just be aligned with sales. You can't just be aligned with customer success, product. And what I like about PLG is all of a sudden market and product need to work much closer together to say, this is where they're stopping in their journey. How do we iterate? How do we make this product together based on market feedback? Because the market feedback is that they progress or they don't. I mean, it's the most straightforward form of feedback. They vote with their usage. And so I think that's really cool. And again, as a chief market officer, I think the closer you get to being best friends with product, the better. And you talked about that. You talked about how is 6sense, Jared, continuing to be successful and leading. It's because we rolled out 50 major features last year. And these aren't like a new filter. I mean, this is like a whole new module. There's only so much I can do on the ing side. There's so many blogs I can write. There's so much paid or organic. If the market and we don't have a good product, in 18 months we'll be toast. That's how it is.
Wow. Yeah, some great insights on the PLG side. And that's a very interesting name for your book, No Forms, No Spam, and No Cold Calls. Can you give us a little scoop on that and tell us about the modern ways of selling and marketing? Because we are kind of throwing away these traditional tactics.
Yeah. So, again, I started at 6sense and I wanted to be a chief market officer and then I'm in this like MarTech world and everything is an intent data company, de-anonymizer, this, that, the other, like so many buzzwords getting tossed around, ABM, ABX, AB, whatever, AB, I don't know. And I just was like, what is this all about? Like, what really is it all about? And I come from customer experience. So Aperio, essentially what we did is we help people reimagine their customer experience with cloud technology. And so I was like, and I believe, every company I've worked at, I really believe in what they're doing, probably over believe, but that's my job. And so I really believed in what Aperio did. And I'm like, I really believe in that. How can I apply what I'm good at? And I know to this crazy landscape of MarTech with everyone shouting about their bailiwick or their, boop-de-bob or their red button that triggers a blue button, and that was when I had this epiphany that if we believe we have superior data, which we do, we should be able to develop a superior experience. And if I can prove that, and then I can share it, that's going to make our customers a lot more successful. And so that's what we decided. And I said, let's talk about the typical marketing tactics that people do demand gen people, a demand gen engine, setting up a demand gen engine. It's content to get an email in your database, to send them nurture, to make sure they hit enough pages on your website that you can score them a certain way and throw it over to sales. I mean, that is a demand gen engine. That is not generating squat. And as a customer, I don't want to fill out a form. I certainly don't need another email. I have 71,000 unread emails right now. So I definitely am not reading any emails. And I don't want to get cold called. If someone calls me during the middle of the day from an 847 number, I pick up because I think it's my kid's school. And then it's someone trying to sell me something. And they've given me a small heart attack because I think my kid's school is calling. Like, that is not a good experience. That's a scary experience. And so I'm like, we can do this different. And that's what we set out to do. And that's what we did. And then, I wanted to write something that was very pragmatic. I think a lot of people can quote Topo or Forrester and kind of regurgitate research or maybe even do their own research. But I wanted something that just helped people do their jobs better, because that's the kind of book I like. Like, I'm like, forget it, like brass tacks. What do you do? And so I tried to really share, here's the template we use. Here's the process we use. Here's what didn't work. Like, you learn way more. I call it cautionary tales. You learn way more from cautionary tales than from like amazing results. So we just tried to put it all in one place for people.
I love that. And thank you for doing that. Whenever you could truly help others from writing something, it's amazing. Now, as we close out, I have the last question. I think Lax might have something quick, but you're inspirational. We appreciate having you on here so much. And I think it would be awesome to have others understand what makes you you. Like, what do you do to help you on your journey to get to where you want? What do you do every day to help you win that day, so to speak? Take it any way you want.
I think that at my core, I am a creative. So I always have projects going on, either at my house or in my yard, or like, I love to create beauty. And that, I don't know, whether it's the perfect outfit or a beautiful dinner party or flower arranging. I'm very girly, if you can't tell, but I own that. And I love to create beauty. That's really, like, I'll wake up in the morning and my husband's like, uh-oh, you have an idea. And I'm like, I have an idea. I'm going to do this theme. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I love throwing parties. I don't know. I thrive on like creating an awesome vibe. And so that's in the design, that's in, my yard, that's in cooking and sharing meals. And I don't know, I just love that. So that's what makes me tick.
Wow, love that. And so I have a last...
You over for a party sometime.
in Chicago or Chicago suburbs?
Yeah, Chicago suburbs. Anyone can
Absolutely.
Come. Just let me know, because I hate to run out of food. I have fear of running. Some people have FOMO. I have FORO, fear of running out.
So my little personal trip. My sister and brother-in-law went to Wisconsin. A lot of people, the university. A lot of their friends are in the Chicago area, including my brother-in-law's family. And my first realm into the startup world, the only other salesperson in the company, we're talking 10 years ago, lives there, and I haven't seen him in years. So don't be surprised if you get a knock on the door. There will be notice. It's all good.
And I love Wisconsin too. I love all the lakes in Wisconsin too. So either one.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, hopefully we'll get a chance to meet you.
Last,
and I'm gonna take the last one. So slowly closing up, Latané. So this is about the recent acquisitions. a lot of acquisitions that recently 6sense announced with the last two bigger rounds. What does that mean for 6sense, and what does it mean for the marketing team?
So the first one is, one of the things I talk about in the book is just how MQLs are just completely ridiculous. And I've always had a quota for pipeline. And so I've always created and managed a pipeline quota. And the best way to never miss your revenue target is to never miss your pipeline target. So, I think marketing has a role in like future-proofing bookings, but it's actually pretty hard to come up with the right target. Mark, the head of sales, gets a target from the board, hit this bookings, right? I have to take that bookings and decide, well, where does it break down from pipeline? What assumptions am I going to make around conversions? And what's the timing of when I need to create that so it comes in at the right time? It's pretty complex. And then that's one whole complex thing. Then I also need to know, am I on track this week to actually hit it? And so the first acquisition that we recently did basically is a pipeline intelligence solution that provides two models. One, what the plan should be and takes in all this data to tell you. And then two, are you on track and are you forecasted to hit your plan? Because if you're not, you can do stuff now. It's too late at the end of the quarter to try to bring some, to do something. But I have, I can work with Mark and we can fix it now so we never miss a quarter. So that's one. And it's funny whenever it's an acquisition that I like, when they give a demo to me and we're thinking about buying them, they don't let me go on video because I get like so excited. And I'm like, yes, that's awesome. And they're like, you're going to screw up our negotiating power. So that's one. The other one is,
So really Latany video off is a good sign.
Yeah. That means that I'm like, oh my God, I love, and I'm slacking for all. I'm like, I love this company. I love everything about them.
That's a great tip.
Yeah. And then the other one, there's three. The other one is not only contact data, which is critical, because it's one thing to know an account's in market, but who am I going to call? You got to eventually know who to call and who to email. So it's contact data. But then what's more as interesting, I should say, is it's technographic data, but the way they do it is predictions too. So they can predict when a renewal will happen. They can predict for churn on their technographic data. So I could say, oh, you're on my competitor and you just signed a 3-year deal. I'm going to start reaching out a year in or whatever. You know what I mean? So it kind of allows you to, especially if you think about like longer sales cycles and things like that. And then the last one of late that we're going to be actually announcing more formally April 20th at our Future Is Now event is AI email. So, you produce all these in-market accounts, but, my whole philosophy is you treat an in-market account like an inbound. And so how do we make sure we're getting speed to first touch, quality of first touch, taking in all of the buying signal about who the buyer is, what their preferences are, where they are in their journey, their intent data, and crafting an amazing initial first experience. And that's what this AI email solution provides.
Wow, wonderful. Cool. Yeah, pretty cool. And one last question to end from my side is one guest that you did recommend to be on this show. Who would that be?
Just one?
We're happy if you have a big list.
As many as you want to say, Latané. We want hold you in high regard.
I know you have a list of CMOs in the community.
Yeah. I can't pick one. I'll email you a few after.
Wonderful. This is awesome. Nice talking to you, Latany. I love the energy. It's infectious.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Have a good day.
We're your biggest fans. Take care.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for being on the show. Bye-bye.